These are the Eternals. They're an ancient race of cosmic beings from the bonkers brain of Jack Kirby and have secretly lived among us on Earth since time immemorial. And here's everything you need to know about the Eternals before they conquer the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Welcome to Explainiac. I'm Dan Casey, and today we're delving into the past of one of Marvel Comics' weirdest corners, the Eternals. They're set to make their big screen debut on November 6, 2020. Now, directed by Chloe Zhao, Eternals stars a veritable murderer's row of superstars. Angelina Jolie, Salma Hayek, Richard Madden, Kit Harington, Ma Dong-seok, Kumail Nanjiani's 12 individual abs, and many, many more. It's a film that Kevin Feige promised a screaming crowd at Brazil's Comic-Con experience will redefine and change the MCU. But the biggest question most Marvel fans have about the Eternals is the same one most of us had when Guardians of the Galaxy was first announced. Who? The Eternals are the weirdo brainchildren of Jack Kirby. Now, back in 1970, old King Kirby left Marvel to work at DC Comics, where he created the Fourth World, a sprawling sci-fi saga about warring pantheons of gods, which coincidentally is also making its way to the big screen in the next couple of years. Now, unfortunately, Kirby's ambitious sci-fi series about these all-powerful beings locked in never-ending war was canceled before he could finish it. So he did what any one of us would do: return to Marvel to make a totally different ambitious sci-fi series about all-powerful beings locked in a never-ending war. It's definitely not the same thing. Dubbed The Eternals, the series, which was also ultimately canceled before Kirby could end it on his own terms, laid the groundwork for much of subsequent Marvel Comics mythology. The Eternals #1 debuted in 1976 and took us into an archaeological dig in the Andes Mountains, where Kirby laid out the central conflict of the series. Omnipotent, godlike beings and massive robot bodies known as the Celestials visited Earth millions of years before the dawn of mankind. Now, you may remember them from the Guardians of the Galaxy, in which we saw a Celestial use the Power Stone to wipe out an entire planet. But in Earth's case, they just decided they wanted to play this messed up version of The Sims, performing some cosmic chemistry on apes to make 3 powerful new species. The Deviants. These guys are basically horrifying monster men who live underground. Evolutionary incels that just create weapons of mass destruction and never ever moisturize. The Humans. That's us. Humans basically wound up trashing the joint through greed and violence, but that's neither here nor there. We just suck, and Jack Kirby knows it. The Eternals. Now, these, our ostensible heroes, are aloof, ageless beings with incredible powers who were regarded with equal parts awe and fear by the human societies who encountered them. Before straight up piecing out to the stars, the Celestials tasked the Eternals with defending the humans from the Deviants, which, pretty tall order if you ask me. As time went on, a rift formed between the Eternals, with one faction led by Uranos believing they should rule over mankind, and another led by Kronos believing they shouldn't. Civil war erupted and led to Uranos' defeat, prompting him to form his own civilization on Uranus. And eventually Titan, which doesn't sound like a butt. Meanwhile, back on Earth, when Kronos perished in an unfortunate cosmic energy accident, insurance scam, his sons Zuras and Alars formed a Unimind. Basically, it's a mind meld that lets multiple Eternals act as one being, so they could determine a new ruler. Zuras won out, and Alars left Earth to avoid any future conflict, settling down on the Eternals colony of Titan, which had been through the ringer, where he met a woman named Suisan and basically repopulated the entire planet. First of all, nice. Second of all, gross. Now, actually, you may have heard of 2 of their offspring, Star Fox and Thanos. And no, not that Star Fox, that would be pretty cool. But yes, that Thanos. Fun fact, Thanos is actually an Eternal with something known as Deviant Syndrome, which causes him to look like a CrossFit California raisin instead of a conventionally hot godlike being. So there's a neat little connection there to the Marvel Cinematic Universe right off the bat. Now, back on Earth, the Eternals created the mighty cities of Olympia in the mountains of Greece, Polaria in the Siberian tundra, and Oceania in the Pacific Ocean. These Eternals on Earth form the basis for most modern human mythology within the Marvel Universe. They're revered and feared as gods, whereas the Deviants were largely responsible for tall tales of things like monsters, demons, and devils. These 2 groups would battle for many years before eventually settling on a mutual non-aggression pact until the Celestials returned. And oh boy, return did they ever. Our first introduction to this conflict is told through the eyes of Icarus, a weird-looking dude in a hat and sunglasses who, surprise, surprise, turns out to be an Eternal named Icarus. Did Bart Simpson name this guy? What the hell here, Jack Kirby? Come on. Played by Richard Madden in the movie Icarus, or Icarus if you say it. Real stretch it out like it's a nice pizza pie making the dough. Ooh, hey, gabagoo. Icarus possesses a wealth of powers, including superhuman strength, flight, cosmic energy beams that shoot from his eyes, teleportation, and many more. Most useful of all, he possesses the power of exposition, which he displays again and again and, oh boy, again in the series' first issues. While aiding the archaeologist Dr. Daniel Damian and his daughter Margot on an expedition in the Andes, Icarus discovers a god chamber from the Incan Empire that could be used to summon the Celestials to Earth. This, of course, invokes the wrath of the Deviants, who sent a devilish doofus named Crow to try and prevent that signal from going out. What follows is a brief fight scene in which Icarus reveals his superpowers and then is promptly defeated by a gun that launches a poncho at him. You know, because comics. Ultimately, one of the mighty Celestials, Arishem, leader of the Fourth Host, lands on this giant pylon where he's gonna stand for 50 years before rendering judgment on all of the Earth. Now, obviously, this situation is what many scientists would call not great, so Icarus has to reunite his fellow Eternals to help fend off deviant incursions and figure out a way to spare humanity from the Celestials' wrath. To do so, Icarus recruits Eternals like Circe, Makari, and Athena to help save the day. Now, before the Celestials can deliver their judgment, the Deviants try to bomb the Celestial mothership, which basically guarantees a guilty-as-charged obliteration verdict. Fortunately, our heroes manage to stop them before they can execute their dastardly plot, and in doing so, save the Earth. Now, while this is a potential avenue for Chloe Zhao's big screen adaptation to pursue, a far likelier candidate is Neil Gaiman and John Romita Jr.'s 2006 Eternals miniseries. In this modern adaptation, the Eternals can no longer recall who they are. This collective amnesia is the result of mental manipulation by one of their own, Sprite, an Eternal who's trapped in the body of an 11-year-old for all time. Sucks, dude. The only one who remembers the Eternals' true identities is old Icarus, aka Icarus. I'm not gonna get over it. Icarus must once more help his friends to remember who they are and prevent a newly awakened dreaming Celestial from judging all of humanity before it's too late. As for the Eternals themselves, let me quickly run down who we're gonna be seeing on the big screen. Richard Madden is Icarus. Angelina Jolie is Athena, an immortal warrior who can create illusions. Salma Hayek is Ajax, an Eternal capable of communicating with Celestials. Gemma Chan is Circe, a mythological enchantress with the power of molecular manipulation. Don Lee, or Ma Dong-seok, is Gilgamesh, an outcast and perhaps the strongest Eternal of them all. Kumail Nanjiani is Kingo, the swordsman-turned-movie star. Lauren Ridloff is the speedster Makari. Leah McHugh is the puckish trickster Sprite. Brian Tyree Henry is Phastos, the engineer and weaponsmith of the Eternals. And Barry Keoghan is Droog, Icarus's flying, teleporting cousin. And as for Game of Thrones alum Kit Harington, well, he's not an Eternal at all. He's playing Dane Whitman, aka Black Knight, an armor-clad superhero who wields a mystical sword who's Cersei's longtime love interest. Now, unfortunately for them, a man named Proctor, who was secretly another reality's version of Dane Whitman, began trying to murder Cersei in every reality across the multiverse after he got rejected by the Cersei in his own dimension, but that, my friends, is a story for another episode. We'll just have to wait until November 6, 2020 to see for ourselves, though. In the meantime, tell me, what Eternal story do you most want to see on the big screen? Which of the Eternals is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below and give me a thumbs up while you're there. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel while you're at it. And if you want even more Marvel goodness and deep dives, be sure to check out past episodes of Explainiac, wherever fine Nerdist content is streamed. And remember, not everything in life can be explained, but for everything else, there's this show.